Namaste, beloveds. This is Mother with Wisdom, and this is a very special video. Um, due to I'm doing this video um, after a very deep meditation. Um, that meditation came about because I've been searching so deeply um, within myself for these last, I'd say, couple of weeks. Um, More so than I have ever really done in a very, very long time. And doing it from a place of observation without judgment, without emotions, um, impacting or overloading, so to speak. And everything has become a lot clearer for me. As far as the I am principle. And most of you who have been following me know that I write the word I, E-Y-E. And a couple of videos prior to this one, I've explained why I do that. One of the things that prompted this video is um, the acknowledgement of I am inside, the I am that I know myself to be, that I have always known myself to be. Um, and what Spirit has shown me is that I have become a recluse. I've become a hermit in seeking um, this understanding and this understanding of myself and my place on this earth, in this world, at this time. And beloveds, it has been amazing what I have began to understand. And one of the things is to be totally 100% real with yourself, to really analyze your reality and to understand that you created and agreed to this reality, and it is playing out because you are empowering it to do so. One of the things um, with me right now is understanding that being an empath the way I am, feeling things so acutely, understanding them to a degree, remembering things, having memories surface and just interject themselves, as well as voices and clarity. I'll put it that, wisdom. Understanding all of this and coming to the conclusion that I have been isolating myself, and I have been putting myself in a state of mm, designed seclusion. I'll put it that way. Designed seclusion. And in my designed seclusion, I have walls, I have boundaries, I have so many limitations placed upon myself to understand the entire I am principle. And in doing that, I have limited and restricted myself by trying to limit and restrict my pain, the pain of the world that I feel, and the knowing of those around me, being influenced and um, I'd say just really digging myself in, and it's this is how it showed to me. I see myself as being very spiritual. I see myself as being a firstborn daughter. And in being a firstborn daughter and understanding this from the earliest times of questioning why my parents were who they were, why I was in born into this country, born poor, born this, born that. And it is from understanding through this meditation, like I said, coming through at this point and really understanding that we, as human beings, as spiritual beings, being human, have such a hard time becoming, allowing, surrendering to that highest way of knowing, of identifying, of gravitating to our center, to the actual intimate truth of who we are at our core. I have let other members of, I'll say, my immediate circle, I'll put it that way. I have let other members of my immediate circle, I've let their views, opinions, emotions, life experiences become, I don't want to say more powerful, but more material, more visceral than my own. I have stepped back and I've allowed these ones to, their needs, their thoughts, to supersede my own. And in doing this, I claim the humbleness. I'm being humbled by doing this. I'm doing what my mother wants me to do by being this. And then I realized in this meditation, I'm serving no one by being less than. I am serving no one by allowing others to diminish my feelings, to diminish my thoughts, to diminish my way. It is not about competing with them. It is not about a hierarchy with them. It is not about a humbleness with them. It is about reclaiming my own identity as a sovereign being and being responsible for that evolution of becoming and remembering the highest aspect of my own spirit and spirituality. both as an individual and as a part of a collective. So, beloveds, what I'm saying, and I hope it's coming out in the right way, and I'll listen to it, and I'll make amendments if it's necessary. Um, One of the things with me being who I am, understanding the weight, understanding the need for sacred space, and the understanding that my whole life it has never just been me, um, so to speak, in a room. There are ancestors, there are guides, there are angels, there are demons, there are all kinds of energies present at any given moment, at all given moments. And that knowing has, throughout time, caused me to exhibit certain behaviors and to weave certain patterns and thoughts, excuse me, as forms of protection and as ways of dealing with this unseen entourage, so to speak. And one of the things that I realize that I'm doing is that I'm putting up barriers, trying to put up barriers between me and these ways of knowing. And I have been isolating myself while I was doing this. And in the isolation, I've only allowed certain beings access, I'll put it that way, certain family members and so forth, really intimate knowledge of my so-called battles. And I'm realizing that in doing this, I have shortchanged myself. I've shortchanged myself because, like I said, I've allowed other people's feelings and thoughts about me to overshadow what I know about me and what I'm supposed to be doing and how I'm supposed to be growing. Um, and this is just another rebirthing that is getting ready to happen. But I can say that this is one of the most powerful um, reconnections to wisdom, to the I am principle, to my own spirit that I have had in a very, very, very long time. And it is because of the heart seeking others, seeking reflections that really mirror my heart, my soul, and my spirit, my understanding, that reflect the voices and opinions and decisions of my guides. And it's a very empowering energy to step into, to claim, to own your own divinity, your own sovereignty, and to establish it in the manner that your heart dictates outside of what someone else envisions you to be or thinks you to be or knows you to be. There's a saying, an old ancient saying, that a prophet isn't a prophet to those who he grew up with. You know, that that being has to leave those that knew him or saw him growing or saw him making mistakes. And he has to go to those who just see him as prophet, because those are the ones who will be open. But I'm starting to understand that, beloved, it's not about how someone else perceives you. Like I said, that has never mattered to me anyway, because of just the circumstances I grew up in and who I am. I've never worried about what somebody else thought of me, because I've always been different. I've always felt different. I've always seen things differently. So different does not affect me as it affects most. And I embrace the differences. My thing now is understanding how humble you really have to be with this understanding of accepting your own divinity. You have to be so transparent with yourself, to yourself, for yourself. You have to really let go of old foundations that no longer serve. And that is one of the hardest things to do, is to really look into certain behaviors that you have, certain rationalities that you've always clung to, certain safety nets that are no longer safe because you are no longer that same being. You've transcended that being. You've grown as far as you can be, as far as you can grow, with the understanding of that particular form of energy that you perceive as yourself, and your self-knowing, your self-realization. And you've moved forward. And beloveds, time is an illusion. So your past, your present, and your future are giving birth to themselves in a way that is orchestrated by the I am principle that is inside of you. And you have to strip away the barriers. You have to strip away the restrictions. You have to strip away the hypocrisy. And for me, that hypocrisy takes place in still pushing back against that door that I need to walk through. And that is where I am. That is where this meditation and this rebirth and this awakening has brought me. And I want to share some things with you. I haven't picked this book up in a while. I hope you can see it. There we go. called Soul Dust. Soul Dust, The Magic of Consciousness by Nicholas Humphrey. And beloveds, this is a very deep book. It's not easy reading. It's something you have to pick up and put down. Um, After the meditation, I was told to go get this book, and I was led to where I needed to, what I needed to see. And I'm going to share that with you now, okay? And this is chapter 7. Of course, 7s have been the theme lately. This is 7. It's called The Enchanted World. That's the title of this chapter. George Santayana wrote that life is worth living is the most necessary of assumptions, and what is not assumed, the most impossible of conclusions. I hesitate to contradict him outright about the impossibility of the conclusion, but I will gladly let Rupert Brooke, yes, Brooke again, do it for me by pointing out how a love of things can seem to justify the lover's life. When a friend wrote to Brooke to tell him he was overcome by pessimism, Brooke, just 23 years old, replied, "I have a remedy. It is a dangerous one, but I think good on the whole. The remedy consists in just looking at people and things as themselves, neither as useful, nor moral, nor ugly, nor anything else, but just as being. In a flicker of sunlight on a blank wall, or a reach of muddy pavement, or smoke from an engine at night, there's a sudden significance and importance and inspiration that makes the breath stop with a gulp of certainty and happiness. It is not that the wall or the smoke seem important for anything, or suddenly reveal any general statement, or are rationally seen to be good or beautiful in themselves, only that for you they're perfect and unique. It's like being in love with a person. One is extraordinarily excited that the person, exactly as he is uniquely and splendidly just exists. It's a feeling, not a belief. Only it's a feeling that has amazing results. I suppose my occupation is being in love with the universe, with such superb work to do, and with the wild adventure of it all, and with the enchantment of being even for a moment alive in a world of real matter and actual people. I have no time now to be a pessimist. If we want an additional adaptive function for consciousness, perhaps being in love with the universe will do. But more specifically, what might this love affair translate into? The term love has figured repeatedly in the foregoing discussion. I would say we should take it seriously. Love is a powerful emotion. It motivates the lover to engage with the objects of his love, to seek them out, cherish them, and make more of them. And if he is in love with everything there is, why, then, he becomes a creature devoted to play, to discovery, and artistic creation, inveterately curious. To love in this way is to be a child, is to see as a child sees. Everything can teach me. I can learn. I can see. I can open up worlds. They'll tell me stories. They'll teach me who I am. They'll show me things that others cannot see. That's why all the sages said, be like children. A child will lead them. Because this is the mindset. This is the understanding of love that is needed. A child comes here with an understanding of connection and love, connection to love, and loving and being loved. This is where we have to be again, beloveds. We have to allow love back into our lives in this manner again, in this way of knowing again. Okay. In that same book, The Last Human, a caption to another illustration reads, a juvenile Australopithecus africanus greets a new morning 2.5 million years ago. We may well imagine the Australopithecine child going out into the playground of the African savannah with the same joyous anticipation shown by the human child we saw celebrated in A. Milline's poem, a child whose enthusiasm for engaging with whatever comes his way is, we can now say, driven not just by the fun of feeling he exists, but the fun of discovering what in the world exists. If you were a bird and lived on high, you'd lean on the wind when the wind came by. You'd say to the wind when it took you away, that's where I wanted to go today. Where am I going? I don't quite know. What does it matter where people go? Down to the wood where the bluebells grow. Anywhere, anywhere, I don't know. The authors of a book about children's minds, which they titled The Scientist in the Crib, wrote, human children in the first 3 years of life are consumed by a desire to explore and experiment with objects. Science, in the grand sense, it may not be, but we need not doubt that any creature, human or non-human, that has such an incentive to investigate the nature of things in their own right will be forever learning more about the practical, life-enhancing potential of the world he lives in. See, we can't shut down, and we can't let people whose minds are shut down limit us, shut us down, put a blanket over us. You know, we cannot allow ourselves, in seeking humbleness, in seeking to know the truth of who we are, we cannot allow ourselves any longer to be diminished, because that is not strength, that is not courage, That is not fighting. That is avoiding. That is avoiding the expansion and the exploration of your gifts. It is saying, I will stay stagnant. I will be still. I will stay here because those who are around me are nowhere, don't even think the way I think, don't even see the way I see, don't receive the things that I receive, resent me for receiving, seeing, and knowing. It is the self that must be liberated and claimed. Another cannot do it for you. That's the meditation. That's the message of the meditation. Another cannot do it for you. Another cannot stop you. Another cannot limit you. You do that. No one can get into your mind unless you allow them there. You have to allow them access there. You have to give them permission to dominate your thoughts. You have to give them the authority over your feelings, to override them, your way of knowing, your sense of being, your dignity. It is not humble. It is not humility to deny giving the glory to whom it is deserved. By being small is not serving, is not serving. A sun can cast sun rays that penetrate planets, that gives light to the darkest of feelings and knowings and remembrances. If you shut out that light, you don't receive the full benefit of the rays. We have to stop shutting out the light, beloveds. We have to stop shutting out the light. We have to allow ourselves to expand into spiritual beings. We have to envision what a spiritual human being is and looks like. The old constructs don't serve anymore. The old constructs of prophet and sage and shaman and teacher and shepherd. These are foundations on which we need to step and rise. We need to incorporate those beings as part of ourselves. Each of us has a prophet inside. Each of us has a Messiah inside. Each of us has a monster inside. We get past those things, or we get to those things by examining ourselves, by meditating, by being quiet, by hearing more than the outside world that wants us to not even know the beginning of our abilities, that wants to keep us in misery and sorrow and suffering, because that's a prison in which we hold the key and we keep ourselves in our own misery. And thus we empower this world to keep being the way it is. Back to the reading. The way, of course, lies biological success. Moreover, that way in the long run lie grand science and human civilization too. For it is this love affair with the natural world that drives men and women to their boldest feats of exploration and invention. Richard Dawkins has caught the mood exactly. After sleeping through 100 million centuries, we have finally opened our eyes as a sumptuous planet, sparkling with color, bountiful with life. Within decades, we must close our eyes again. Isn't it noble, an enlightened way of spending our time in the sun, to work at understanding the universe and how we have come to wake up in it? This is how I answer when I am asked, as I am surprisingly often, why do I bother to get up in the morning? And if Dawkins is not to your taste, let Henry Poincaré say it instead. The savant does not study nature because it is useful. He studies it because he takes delight in it. And he takes delight in it because it is beautiful. If nature was not beautiful, it would not be worth knowing, and life would not be worth living. Now we're going to go into chapter 8. I'm going to show you this. Chapter 8. So what is who I am? We have been seeking evidence of how, for you as a conscious creature, phenomenal consciousness changes your world view so as to change the direction of your life. We have seen first how it makes you care about pure being and promotes your will to live. Next, how it makes you attribute value and meaning to things in the external world. I would say these effects between them are quite sufficient to explain why natural selection would have redesigned sensitive sensation to give it phenomenal qualities, probably quite early on in evolution, and at any rate long before our ancestors became human. But the story did not stop there in the case of human beings. And now I will say humans and their near relatives alone. There turned out to be a payoff on a much grander level, nothing less than the development in each conscious individual of a quite new idea of what it means to be oneself. This new and dramatically inflated conception of the self arose out of intellectual reflection on the effects of consciousness, in part reflection on those very effects outlined earlier. Intellectual reflection, I mean puzzling over these effects, meditating on them, experimenting with them, discussing them with friends. Indeed, the very kind of reflection we have been engaged in this book. Perhaps you will object that this is too much to expect of ordinary people, let alone of ancestors long ago. I don't believe so. The fact is, human beings in general are far too inquisitive, too interested in just who and what they are to pass over the big questions that consciousness so obviously raises. If humans can be scientists in the crib, they can be philosophers in the crib, and philosophers for their whole lives too. Let's step back and begin again with with the core self. When you reflect on it, rather than just live it, what strikes you as the most peculiar thing about the experience of being you? We have discussed already some of the more remarkable properties of sensations, temporal thickness, and so on, but there is an overarching feature that I expect impresses you before all else, and this is that experience is observable by you and no one else. It is not simply that it belongs to you, as, say, your car or your legs belong to you. By virtue of being under your control, it is that it is absolutely private. There are no doors between one consciousness and another. Everyone knows directly only of his or her own consciousness and no one else's. This exceptional aloneness is obvious, even horribly obvious, when you think about it, and you do think about it. I am sure that since childhood, you, along with just about everyone else, have played with the riddles that flow from the inaccessibility of other minds. To take John Locke's famous example of seeing colors, how do you know that your color sensation when you see a violet is not like another person's sensation when he or she sees marigold? The answer, which is it has never required a great philosopher to demonstrate, is simply that you do not. Because, as Locke said, one man's mind cannot pass into another man's body. I'm going to say that again, beloved. One man's mind cannot pass into another man's body. And I want you to really think about that for a minute, beloved. Because the way you observe, see, feel, think, and experience something, you cannot expect another to feel it, know it, experience it exactly in the same manner that you do. Not possible. But yet that is what we do, beloved. That is what we do. And we do it to our loved ones all the time. And we feel that they are not loving us if they cannot sympathize, empathize, or at least acknowledge what we see and experience the way we do. And this forms all kind of defects within the self, redirections, all kind of false thinking, false knowing, false feelings, all because we're attached to the understanding that for someone to love us, they have to experience things the same way we do. Not the case, no, not the case. Of course, you long ago ceased to find this conclusion novel, yet there is no denying how surprising it was at first discovery. And what comes to my mind when I read this and heard this inside of myself was my first love. And loving him the way I did. I was 16, he was 26. But loving him the way I did, and my understanding of what love was, and me giving, and him being, whoa, whoa, whoa. And now I understand that. I sincerely really understand that. Not everybody is capable of receiving the depth of your love. It scares the hell out of them. They don't know. They have no experience with that. They don't know what is required of them. And it requires something of them. It requires something of them that they're not able to give because they have not focused in on the core selves of themselves and have gotten comfortable with that way of loving and receiving love. So we get all bent out of shape because somebody else sees things differently than we do. And we begin to feel dejected, rejected, and ashamed of even feeling and loving and needing in the first place. Instead of forgiving ourselves and forgiving that person for not being able to give you what you need. It's not them, beloved. It's you. It's you. You can't be mad with them because they have not reached that understanding of the individual that they are and the collective. You cannot be angry with them. You bless them and say, may you come to that understanding freely. And when you get there, may you bust it open and give freely of your love. Because love is wisdom, beloved. Yet there is no denying how surprising it was at first discovery, and how remarkable it still remains whenever you return to it. Not simply an interesting tease, but a startling metaphysical revelation. Indeed, what a strange state of affairs. Nothing else in the world is private in the same way that conscious experience is. Everything else in the world joins up in the fourth dimensional space-time manifold that basic physics says is insufficient to describe the universe. But consciousness, it seems, is essentially different. Each individual's consciousness is as much a world apart on its own plane of existence as is each separate universe in the multiverse. That cosmologists sometimes fantasize about. Forget the open doors between one conscious self and another. It seems there is not even the possibility of tunneling through a wormhole. If you find this situation puzzling as it is, wonderful, you are in good company. Your puzzlement is not because you are missing something or cannot think straight, though some professional philosophers persist in saying so. Consciousness, as I had cause to remark in the opening chapter, really is deep, fascinatingly, and peculiarly private. The meaning and explanation of this privacy has long posed a major challenge to cognitive science and philosophy of mind. In part one, we arrived at our own theory of what lies behind it, according to our model of how sensation arises from monitoring sensation. There will, in fact, be several reasons why the qualities of your sensations will be accessible to you alone. To start with, you are observing something, the IP syndrome, and I'm going to spell that for you. IPSUNDRUN, IP syndrome, that you are doing, your own response to stimulation at your body, something that belongs only to you in the same way that any other activity that you initiate belongs only to you. Second, just like dancing, love, that's what came to my head when I saw that, when I just read that. Dancing. Another person, you can teach a person the moves, but you can't teach them the feeling that they're supposed to have instinctively and naturally while they're doing those moves. You know, that rhythm, that conscious way of putting yourself into that trance. It's individual, and it is about the consciousness. It is a conscious understanding of the individual when they step into that dance. And that is why dancing was so prevalent with the ancestors and why it was ritual as well. Second, this response has become internalized in the course of evolution so that what you are observing is as it happens literally out of sight of others' eyes. It's an internal process. It's just like when you get stage fright and you have to get up there on that stage and you've gotten yourself there and you're in front of that microphone and people can see your uncomfortableness. They can feel it. They can experience it. But not a one of them can 100% realize what you're thinking, what you're feeling, just how terrified you are, just what you are undergoing in your own mind to get yourself to do what you know that you're there to do, to perform. And so you bring yourself there. That is an internal struggle. And like I said, there are those who can witness it, but it is your experience, yours. And though some other people may identify with it, none will have experienced it exactly as you, because your body chemistry is different. Your thought forms are different. The way you secrete hormones, adrenaline, and everything else is different, unique. That is the I am principle. And inside of you. Third, things have been rigged so you observe your response from a special point of view, the one point from which it appears to have illusionary phenomenal properties, so that even if everyone else could observe it, they would not describe it as you do. It may be true that this does not add up to logical lockout, such as would make your experience unobservable in principle to a third party. I was at pains to point out in earlier chapters, the Andromedan scientists, with super brain scanning equipment and a bit of luck, might still discover what it is like for you to have your sensations by reading your brain activity and applying the right theory. Yet, since it is a fact that ordinary human beings have neither the equipment nor the theory, this certainly does not add up to biological lockout. And this is quite enough to make the privacy of consciousness hugely impressive, creating the irresistible idea of yourself as a separate bubble of consciousness, a separate soul, one self, this self, and none other. This secret packet of phenomena. Your body may get as close to another person's body as is physically possible, and yet the bubbles remain essentially inviolate. Share the same body, even like conjoined twins, and there still remain two quite separate consciousness. And beloveds, this is what Spirit is telling me as I'm reading this. This is what the virgin birth is all about. This is what the immaculate conception truly is. That's deep. William James suffered up the effect of reality, absolute insulation, irreducible pluralism is the law. It seems as if the elementary psychic fact were not thought, or this thought, or that thought, but my thought, every thought being owned, neither contemporaneity nor proximity in space, nor similarity or quality and content are able to fuse thoughts together, which are sundered by this barrier of belonging to different personal minds. The breaches between such thoughts are the most absolute breaches in nature. And beloved, that simply is saying that in the evolution of things, we have cats and dogs being raised in the same household. And although that cat and that dog might walk around trying to act like each other, the way they process those thoughts, the way they actually live through those thoughts in their being, completely different, completely different. And this was saying that even conjoined twins, sharing one, whatever, one heart, one brain, the individuals still maintain their individuality, even though their physical forms are joined. And this is what we must begin to meditate on, beloveds, is understanding our consciousness is individual and is a part of a collective. Once we begin to understand what the individual consciousness is, we can gain a deeper understanding of how it should be. And I'm just going to keep going, beloved. Um, Here we go. Soul, solo, isolation. Etymologically, according to the Oxford English Dictionary, there is no connection between soul as a noun, S-O-U-L, and soul, S-O-L-E, as predicate. Though I may say I wonder, but psychologically the connection is all too clear. No man, said John Donne, claimed is an island entire to himself. Yet, surely the truth is that at the deepest level of personal experience, every human being discovers the opposite when it comes to consciousness. Every man is indeed an island entire of himself. And, beloveds, that is the realization of the meditation that led me to do um, this particular show. And in understanding how we insulate ourselves, even amongst our loved ones, even amongst and amidst our families, and it's a conscious decision to do so. And in order to bring about change, we have to consciously be aware of that process, of that internal process. And we have to see and know how those wheels are turning, and the direction has to constantly be monitored, and where as individuals we are going. Okay. But some island, the physicist John Linder has written, an extraordinary place in the universe is the near vacuum of interstellar space, 1 atom per cubic meter, 3 degrees above absolute zero. But you and I are extraordinarily places. In us, the universe has become conscious, able to reflect upon itself. Beloveds, if you take nothing else away from this video, please let that penetrate your consciousness. I'm going to read it again because it is that powerful. In us, the universe has become conscious, able to reflect upon itself. When you come, this is the understanding of the Brahmins. This is the understanding of the most ancient of sages. This is the understanding of wisdom. This is the sharing of universal wisdom. This is the birth of that individuality into a collective. It begins with this most fertile of soil and the seed that those questions and that longing for knowledge, and that longing for love, and that longing for understanding, and that longing for self-acceptance is the universe itself reflecting upon itself through you. And the diversity of our beings, size, shape, color, gender, is necessary for that reflection. There is no hierarchy. The understanding comes, the wisdom is, There is no hierarchy. When you understand that each of us is the universe expressing itself and reflecting upon itself, how can you judge another? How can you condemn another when you know that this world is made of light and dark, positive and negative, up and down, as above, so below? How can you judge another for reflecting upon their own natures in expressing their own individuality as a form of coming into a collective? It's beautiful. We are wonderfully designed. If only we would know ourselves. If only we would give ourselves permission to love ourselves fully and freely. It takes meditation. It takes many times failing, falling down, not liking yourself, in order to understand what you love about yourself, how strong you are, how much of a fighter you really are, because you're fighting for your individuality to express the universe with freedom from judgment, from yourself or others. It is also the acceptance that the universe resides in you. That is the I am. That is that inner child that questions and is so hungry for love, universal love, unconditional love, to register once again. And it only registers when there's self-love, beloveds. And self-love is not achieved in a day, in a week, in a month, in a year. Self-love has to be realized with real eyes and intention and integrity. That whatever lies there, positive or negative, good or bad, they're the same. It is all an expression of the universe in order to know itself. Let me see. There's a lot more to this, but I am going to stop right there with this. I'm going to stop right here with this. Again, this is Soul Dust, The Magic of Consciousness, and it's by Nicholas A. Humphrey. This book is also, I believe, can be found on the YouTube channel itself. And I have not shaved, so beloveds, love yourself. Be yourself. Express yourself. Only you can dive into your inner thoughts. I don't care how psychic somebody is, and I consider myself psychic. And I hear a lot of thoughts and a lot of feelings. But there is a privacy that you have where no one, not even your guides, if you don't want them, you can choose to silence your thoughts and your feelings to a point where no one can feel them, no one can witness them because they are yours and the universe. And it's up to you, that I am inside of you, how you choose to exercise this part of yourself. And beloveds, I wasn't going to, but I'm being compelled. I'm being compelled um, to pull a card um, from the Isis Oracle deck. Let me just clean it right quick for my own personal use. And that's just how I clean my own deck. Don't ask me why. I've always done it that way. Um, just how I was told to do it. Clean it with my breath. That my breath also imprints upon the cards. Becomes one with them. Helps me to um, bond with the information that needs to come out and be able to draw it forth um, in the manner that is necessary. And right now, beloveds, I'm feeling the need to say a small prayer with this reading. So, Great Spirit, let your message flow through. Let the greatest light shine on how to illuminate the self, the individual self, the universal self, and what and how we should go about allowing it to be reborn and reclaimed and remembered and renewed and regenerated and resurrected within ourselves with love and with understanding of the necessity to do so. Point us in the right direction. Let your message speak to us individually and collectively. Ashe, 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 aho, amen. Okay, beloved, here we go. Beloved, we just had this card, and it is a reinforcing of what has already been shared. The dark mysteries enter the chamber of the dark goddess. And I did not show this to you before, beloveds, but I will this time. I'm being told I can share some things with you. Notice her headdress. It's the shape of a cow. Here are the horns. Here are the ears. Here is another way of knowing. So I want you to understand these three areas. Here, here, and here. Okay? This is where the core of the dark mysteries are held. So on the human being, it's here, your temples. It's also here, which is I'm being told like a meridian point. Um, it's also frontal lobe, part of the brain right here. And you have the horns in the middle, which are antennas for the third eye. I don't know if you can see them or not, but there are four little dots. One here, here. They're four little dots, beloveds. I don't know if you can see them, but they're inside. There we go. Do you see them? Those are cardinal directions: north, south, east, and west. Within that mirror, within that carnelian stone, I'm also seeing emerald and sapphire. And I'm being told, okay, I don't understand that, but emerald and sapphire are the parents of lapis lazuli, okay? um, so these are the minerals that are speaking as well from these dark mysteries: the carnelian, the emerald, the sapphire, and one of the most important that it comes from the culmination of all of this, the dark mysteries, is the lapis lazuli. So Mama is saying, beloveds, do your due diligence. Look up lapis lazuli. It is an ancient, very ancient stone. It is well known to the goddess for its many properties. Ishtar, Inanna, especially had the lapis lazuli. Also Isis. Um, so, beloveds, here we go with this. The Dark Mysteries is on page 194, which is 14, which is 5. 194. Into the chamber of the dark goddess, and I will read the ritual for this as well. I'm going to read this entire um, card this time. Into the chamber of the dark goddess. The dark goddess calls you to her inner chamber, where she holds a test and a gift for you. The test is your willingness to meet and release the fears within that have been secretly holding you back. The gift is freedom, peace, opportunity, and prosperity in all its forms. Will you accept her call? Your time for deeper initiation is here. When the dark goddess calls you, it is a life-changing experience. It is not always easy, but the rewards for those brave enough to answer her call and enter her inner chamber are tremendous indeed. The rewards are a life lived with fearlessly, lived more fearlessly, the gift of loving and being just who you are in truth, without having to impress or bow to another out of fear or rejection. It is a more open and expansive way to live, and it attracts the bounty of the Dark Mother, her gifts of love, opportunity, peace, and prosperity, well-being, and wisdom. It takes a strong soul to go through this test and into the liberation it delivers. But you are ready, dear initiate of the light. The dark goddess calls you to initiation when you have been working on your own shadow, bringing your whole self to light. During such times, we often need help, as shadow work can be uncomfortable, painful, or just quite difficult to undertake as we are working with unconscious material, trying to bring it into the light of our conscious awareness, working with the shadow, the parts of us that we have deemed unlovable, or the parts that seem too marvelous to actually be us, requires courage. And beloveds, that is where this whole video is coming from. That is the birthplace, that is the womb of it, of where this whole video is coming from. This is the meditation. This is the realization that we carry parts inside of us, parts of the universe that expresses itself as unlovable, as unworthy, as unknowable, as unchangeable, as deserving of pain and suffering, deserving of death and the death cycle, the birth, death, rebirth cycle over and over and over and over and over again, unending. We have to come to the realization that those unlovable parts feel that way because of our individuality, because of our individual memories, thoughts, and feelings. And we have convinced those universal parts of us that we have judged them so harshly that they feel unlovable, unredeemable. And we don't let them die, we keep them alive. And that is the coward's way of living and being, because it requires courage to face these parts that feel so unlovable. These parts, we have given them so much empowerment and taken so much of our own power away that it's like David and Goliath. Physically, logically, it doesn't make sense. But the individual I am knowing can face that giant and knock it down with a stone flung at it. A thought, psh, I am worthy. Psh, what did I just show you? The temple, the lobes, the third eye. Often the shadow element that needs integration when the dark goddess is present is power in some form or other. Take that to heart, beloveds. Our struggle is with power, is with being powerful. The I am knows how powerful it is. It is our individual thoughts that need to break that I am down and say, no, my ancestor was a slave. My ancestor was this. They lost. We were conquered. We have been civilized. My children now are. And we give that power instead of the I am that is all knowing and all wise and all loving, and if allowed to express itself in the manner that it was designed and divined to do, our realities will change. It may be personal power, spiritual power, or your relationship to power that needs to change for you to blossom and for life and its gifts to manifest more abundantly for you. Becoming more powerful does not necessarily mean gaining more force. More often, for advanced souls, it actually means surrendering our will into alignment with greater forces of divine will, allowing us to consciously participate in the flow of life, sensing the signs and nudges that lead us towards our greatest manifestation of soul this lifetime. So, beloveds, I have come all this way fighting for every single milliliter, every inch, every understanding that I have, every understanding that I have. I have fought for it. And who I have fought is myself. And my I am self today has proved the winner. And there is no going backwards now from this awareness, from this understanding of who I am and my ability to express the universe as I see it, as I know it, as I experience it, as I will it. And I take that, and it is not a burden. It is Christmas and Easter and all the holy days all come together at once. It is the birth of true understanding, and it's glorious. You have to fight to get to a place in your mind where you can even observe the I am principle that is you in full effect. But once you get there, once you arrive, put down your battle gear, beat your swords into plowshares, get ready to expand beyond human limitation and take upon yourself the mantle of a universal identity, of a universe expressing itself individually through you. How much are you going to limit the universe? Is it some small thing? Is it something incapable of peace? Is it some small thing incapable of unconscious and what's the word I'm looking for? Uncorruptible love. Uncorruptible, unconditional love. That is what the reward is. That is the gift of the mother to the child. You have to surrender your own individuality, which is against the universe, which is opposite, which says, I am not a part of, I am outside of that. You have to accept that it is in you, and it ain't going nowhere. That is the I am. And you will be born karmically again and again and again and again in many other dimensions, some lower, some higher, in order to realize this truth that the universe expresses itself uniquely through you. Often, when we are reclaiming our power and defining for ourselves what it is to be powerful, we are confronted with fears of loss, failure, abandonment, and rejection. It can be painful at times, but accepting and releasing the pain brings such deep relief and happiness to the self. It is good to confront these fears with a loving and firm approach and be open to taking risks and growing anyway. This is what Isis, as the dark goddess, teaches us, not to be afraid to go into the dark places and the difficult feelings within. They may seem ugly at first, yet if we allow ourselves to go there with some conscious awareness in place, we can realize that these parts of us just need love and acceptance. And those parts that we once reviled often blossom and turn into our greatest asset in a more conscious, healthful version of themselves. And beloveds, that is what is happening within myself. And I can fight it as much as I want, but I'm learning that even the fighting it is a pattern that has been placed inside of me. And the only way that I can defeat this pattern is to reweave it and rework it by rethinking, by remembering, by recycling, by releasing, by renewing who I am. We have to face it. We are all facing it. That's what is going on in our world right now. We need radical trust to do this inner work and take her initiation. The Dark Goddess will support and nurture you through her tests as she guides you to receive the gift of more of yourself. No longer shackled in fear and hidden away, but ready to be in the world with brightness and vigor. Entering the inner chamber of the Dark Goddess, it is best to do this ritual either at night or in a room where you can pull down blinds and curtains and create a darkened physical space in which to rest. It doesn't have to be pitch black, but limited lighting will support your ritual process. You will need a small mirror and enough light to be able to just see your reflection. Sit or lay quietly in a position that is comfortable, where you can be relaxed but still alert. Falling asleep can be quite healing, but the intention at least is to be responsive in this ritual healing process in a conscious state. Sitting quietly, take your awareness into your heart and feel the warmth and love there. Say aloud, I open in unconditional love to my whole self and ask for healing, grace, and protection from those divine energies that love me unconditionally. Lightly hold the mirror and gaze at your reflection. Be comfortable and allow yourself to soften your gaze. Really seek to look within your own eyes for a place of love. You deserve this without question. Say to yourself in the mirror, I love you enough to meet the parts of you that have hidden away in fear, shame, guilt, or anger. I am not afraid of you. I am sorry for any time I have pulled back from you in fear. I am here with you now, and I love you completely. I want you to feel whole and loved. You deserve to feel whole and loved. Will you let me love you in this way with the help of the goddess? Place the mirror down and close your eyes, going into your heart and listening for an answer. If you do not feel a yes within, then use the incantation listed below instead and come back to the ritual again and again over the coming days and weeks until you do receive a yes from within your own being. Be patient, trusting, and honest. When you are ready, the healing will happen far more quickly than if you were to try and make it happen before you are ready. And beloveds, I'm just going to say this because this is what Mama is giving me to say. When we, and I have, as a child, have also wondered about this, why we have handicapped individuals, why there are beings who are so afflicted and live in such pain because of the conditions of their bodies, mentally, physically. And this is because they represent those parts of our deepest selves that we think should be hidden and that are ugly and twisted and unlovable and not perfect and have special needs. This is how I want you to look at those parts of yourself that have been so tortured, that have been so abused and misused, that have been denied. I want you to see them as your handicapped children. And I want you to go inside and I want you to let them know how beautiful they are, how precious they are, and how the lesson that they are here to give is wholeness. They are key to your wholeness. And I looked at that in my meditation, like I said, and I came to the understanding that holding all this pain is not what I'm here to do. Masking it, dealing with it, taking it, it's not my highest purpose. That is the stepping stone to knowing that the universe is so vast, and all I've grasped in my little short 52 years is how to deflect pain of living, of being, of knowing, of feeling. And the understanding that my life is just beginning now. That with this meditation, with this realization, I have gathered up all those parts, pieces, fragments, half-truths, handicapped parts of myself, those wounded pieces, those that are still bleeding. I am gathering them and I'm healing them with the understanding that the universe used you, created you, designed you, allowed me to house you within me, my way of knowing, my way of being, in order that I may rise above my own limitations that I've placed upon myself. Okay, let's keep it moving. If you do feel a yes from within you, then continue the ritual. If you are continuing the ritual, say aloud 3 times. I call forth the dark goddess in her form of unconditional love. I call forth the goddess, the dark goddess, in her form of unconditional love, compassion, healing, and support for my own spiritual growth now. I choose to enter your chamber, your inner chamber for healing now. Those of you who have been following me as Mother Wit know, at least I hope you know, that my journey began with the goddess Inanna. And if you know anything about Inanna, this is it. This is it. This is a clarification. This is a revisitation of that knowing. This is the graduating from the infancy stage of knowing her to, this is the upgrade, okay, into going deeper, into having went in that cave in that underworld and maybe arrangements to be taken out when you were ready, and knowing when you're ready, okay, and surrendering to that. With your eyes closed, Be aware of her presence in whatever way feels right for you, whether you just barely sense it or if it is very obvious to you. No matter how strongly you can recognize her presence, she will be with you in the most suitable way for you at the moment. Perceive that you are going within your heart into a dark and open space. Within that space, there is a doorway that leads into the inner chamber of the dark goddess. Imagine, sense, or feel yourself stepping through the doorway and into the inner chamber. It is barely visible, but you can feel your way inside. Rest one hand on your heart and with the other hand pick up the mirror again, holding it up to gaze softly at yourself, deep into your eyes again, and say, I love you. Please show me the parts of me that need to be brought to the light now. Soften your gaze. Let your free hand rest on your heart as you look deep into your own eyes. Just notice without fear or judgment whatever you may feel, think, or however you may respond to this loving attention. You may feel anger, shame, sadness, doubt, or deep grief. You may feel a flash of hatred or a deep fear or anxiety. You may have many thoughts trying to distract you from really seeing yourself. All these responses, any response, is fine. Keep your hand on your heart, stay calm, and breathe. You don't have to understand. Just stay with your heart and be loving enough of yourself that you allow whatever surfaces to surface without believing it, disbelieving it, analyzing it, or resisting it. Just experience it and then be in your heart again. When you are ready, gaze deeply into your own eyes in the mirror and say, I love all parts of me. I let go of shame, guilt, rage, fear, and anger that would hold me back now. I release trapped energy now that will help me move forward into wholeness through the unconditional love of the dark goddess. When you are ready, put down the mirror and close your eyes again. Perceive, sense, or intend that you are moving further into the inner chamber of the dark goddess now, descending deeper than you ever thought you could go. It becomes so dark, you have no sense if there is endless space or not much space at all. It's just, it's pure darkness, but it feels neutral and peaceful. Then you see a light. This light is beautiful and filled with love. Capture it in your hands and place it in your heart. Feel the warmth filling your heart as your awareness now returns completely to your physical body. When you are ready, just open your eyes. Incantation of the dark goddess. This incantation can be repeated several times, gaining speed as you get used to the words. Feel the energy in the words as you speak aloud. You can add it to the end of the ritual above, or if it is not the right time for you to complete the ritual, or you just choose a shorter healing process, you can use it on your own at any time. It is most effective if you take one moment to be in your heart, perhaps even placing your hand on your heart when repeating the incantation. Sublime Isis, dark and sweet, through you, my hidden self I meet. I honor this self and accept. No longer do I fear, shame, or reject. You gift me with myself complete, sublime Isis, dark and sweet. And beloveds, that is that card. Um, I'm being told again to remind you of the four cardinal ways. These are the crossways. These are the cardinal, the most important, north, south, east, and west. I admonish you to look into what the word cardinal signs mean, cardinal directions, and I advise you to start doing some shadow work. Um, to even if one of the ways is gazing into the mirror, another way is to draw those dark parts of you, those dark forms of you, those handicapped parts of you, even if you only draw them with stick figures and a sad face. Name them, identify with them, console them, have conversations with them, welcome them into the wholeness of who you are, own them, stop treating them like redheaded stepchildren, like they don't belong to you. You're too ashamed, you're too scared, they're too ugly, they're too big, they're too powerful. Just keep it hidden. Nobody knows. Keep it hidden. The universe is too big to be kept hidden. The universe designed you to express itself. Empower yourself with that knowing. Surrender yourself to that unconditional love. Give that unconditional love, that type of acceptance and devotion and belief to the I am that reflects the universe. Beloveds, that is this video, and I see that it's at 1:52:30. So I believe in you. I love you. You're part of me. I accept you. I identify with the I am nature that exists as you. And beloved, it's time. It's time. It's really time and the age to seek and to surrender the that highest that highest form of knowing ourselves, the bareness of it, the beauty of it. Okay, that's that's it. I've sent all my goodies, and it is what it is, beloved.